Heartbroken over married man that went back to his wife for the sake of his kids. Where do I start? My sister knows a manager in the local bar and asked him to give me a driving lesson along with her other friend. So he collected me and we went for a driving lesson. We then went for lunch and drinks after. He told me he was chasing me for ages and that he had feelings for me. That night we got together and we were together a couple of times after that. He stayed with me on one occasion on which case his wife got his clothes and brought them to his mother's house as she threw him out. He told me they were in separate bedrooms for the past 6 years and they were together for the sake of the children upon the first night of meeting him. I told him there was no future in this as this was an affair. He insisted that this was a relationship. He introduced me to all his friends and spoke of his wife a lot. I met his children. This all happened very quickly. He told me I was the one. However, he used to get phone calls from his children a lot as they were in trouble. The mother didn't give them enough money to go out and his son was nearly kicked out of school. He went missing and he was distant, so I sent him a few nasty messages. I know I shouldn't have, but I then explained the distance was killing me. I broke up with him as his head was all fucked up, but he rang me the next day in order to sort it out. He was distant since then, though I believed. I told him I felt like his mistress as he always discussed his ex-wife and I had not met his family, they didn't even know I existed, and he spoke of his ex-wife all the time with them. We sorted it out and he asked me to come over to himself and his ex-wife's house when she was away with his 12-year-old daughter here. I met his son again. I went out with my friends that night and he asked me to come over to his house again that night. I met his son and she was introduced as his girlfriend. I did feel uncomfortable. He was then distant the next day, but his son didn't go into shul as his buddies said he had a day off. His son had been arrested already and was on his last chance for another school he was in and getting paid to go to. I went to a mutual friend's birthday where I told him I felt like trash for staying in himself and his ex-wife's house, and he did not reassure me. Instead, he walked away, stormed out with his son and didn't speak to me in 3 weeks. During that time, he organized a date with me, but he couldn't as he was working. Anyway, after 3 weeks he called up and we had a chat in his car outside as I stay with my parents as I am just back from a different country. He told me he had moved back into the house on the phone and called me to see was I okay. He told me they were in different bedrooms, which I do believe, and he still wanted me. I made it clear to him before that if he moved back I wouldn't be able to deal with it. He told me he never would. It turned out that on the way back from the airport after collecting his ex-wife and daughter he moved back in and then he lost touch with me for 3 weeks. He made plans to meet me the next day after initial resistance from me but never got in touch the next day. We were at a mutual friend's birthday separately last Saturday and he kept coming up to me and at one stage he told me he did care about me. I snapped saying he didn't. He asked me to join himself and his friends and I felt so uncomfortable I got into my car. I was upset but didn't want him to know anyway. He thought I was going to drink drive, which I wasn't, and he drove me home. We were together that night too. He again made plans to see me and didn't contact me. At this stage I am really hurting badly. I can't make sense of the situation and can't stop thinking about him. I am not a homewrecker as I know for a fact his marriage was over for 6 years, so please don't berate me.